everybody, welcome back. It's Mama Kay coming at you from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. And I am so thrilled that this person has agreed to be interviewed. I don't think I've ever been interviewed as much about an interview as I have from this person. This person likes to have things lined up. I think it's their accounting background. And we were just talking about how long we've known each other. And we're getting on 20 years, which is it just blows my mind. But we've known each other in a variety of situations. We worked together, both in a store situation, but as well in the band community outside of that. So without further ado, I'm so excited to introduce my special guest to you. Actually, I'll let them introduce themselves. Special guest, who are you?
Good morning, Joanne. John Balsillie here. It's great to see you today.
Great to see you. So John, what do you do?
I am currently the executive director for the Manitoba Band Association and the Canadian Band Association. And that would encompass lots of administration, communications, running events is probably the thing I love the most about the job, and seeing people bring students and ensembles and community bands out to perform at festivals and workshops and things like that. It's mixed in with a little accounting and finance for good measure to keep me up, from drifting off too much from what I love to do, that side of things. But
how long have you been doing that job?
I've been doing that job now for about 6 years, since 2014, and absolutely love it. It's just fantastic.
So it's quite a switch from what you were doing before that. What was the career path that you had before this one?
Before this one, I spent a number of years working in the music industry side in retail, sales, management, and things like that. I did about 21 years full-time and consecutively with a company called, actually I started with a company called Boddington Music in Toronto in '93. And then Boddington Music merged into the family of the St. John's Music retail stores across Canada as they were growing, and spent a number of years there. And then in 2000, some of you will recall a gentleman by the name of Mr. Rob Houston. Rob needed someone to work in store, in management and in sales in the band area, and I accepted, and our family moved west from Ontario to Winnipeg.
And that's where you and I met. I was, at that point, I was working in the summers at St. John's Music, and I got to meet you there, and my life has never been the same since.
And that's a good thing.
It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing. So now you have a huge music background even before that, though, because I mean, something fueled you to get involved in the music industry. Can we go way, way, way back? Doodle 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 to Baby John. What started it all?
Okay, Baby John. So my mother, who was by trade a nurse, she was an OR and emergency room nurse at St. Joseph's Hospital in Toronto, but also had her ARCT in piano and was a very accomplished piano player. My father played French horn through school and band and things like that, but then went on to get into science and plant pathology and things along those lines. My aunt, who I'm very close to, who actually turned 83 yesterday, and we spoke on the phone in between her meetings. She was still managing the choir. She's still doing arts administration as their executive director, general manager for the Eisler Singers. She married a music educator in Toronto who left teaching to go on to form professional choirs in Canada. And I got connected to the music scene just through all those connections. I can remember being 10, 11, 12 years old and backstage at Massey Hall and Roy Thompson Hall when that got built. I knew the trombone players in the Toronto Symphony when I was in grades 7, 8, 9, and just attracted to the brass sound and stuff like that. Lots of private teachers. I applaud the work of the private instructors. The ability to sit one-on-one with a player and match sound and match pitch and match style, talk articulation is so crucial to the development of any young woodwind brass percussion player in a band program. And very fortunate, my high school band director, Ken Myers, there's the guy. He kind of took me from, okay, well, I'm just going to be in band and hang out, and and he took me from periphery to go for it, do it, and go into this. You've got like energy in here. And he got me hooked up with a private teacher who lived close by. His name was Bram Smith. He's now passed away, but I was so fortunate to stay with Bram. He had a monster brain on conducting and music and trumpet playing and brass instruction. And as a trombone player, I studied with a trumpet player for 3 years straight, grade 9, 10, 11. And that just changed all my playing techniques, just into a whole other zone. I also studied with Cam Walter and David Archer. Scott Irvine was a great year of lessons with Scott. Just loved studying with a tuba player. That was awesome. And a big influence on my zone was Frank Harmantis. Frank was one of those first guys that really knew, and years later I didn't understand it, but at the time it was just awesome. I did my U of T audition, and I had studied a little bit with him on occasion to get ready to prep for it. And he phoned that night to the house to say, hey, I just want to say thanks for coming. It was great to hear you play. And we've been lifelong friends since that phone call.
That's incredible that they took the time to do that, right? And that's so meaningful.
Yeah. Like, and that personal like reach out, now we might call it recruiting, or we might call it retention or something like that. But that relationship just like, that right there, I can pinpoint it, or I can touch it like as if it just happened a minute ago.
So what made you want to go into music though? Like what really lit that fire for you to go from, like you said, a high school player to wanting to pursue music in university? What did it for you?
I probably was around enough musicians and enough professional players and enough arts and culture to know that it was safe. It's fun. It's a blast. It had all the elements that I think are great. And I think a lot of people can be pretty nervous about that and wondering how to step into that world and how to get connected. And I guess I was lucky, blessed, worked hard enough, and loved it. I also just loved playing. I loved having my instrument and doing those pieces as well. And the people that I met were awesome. And I loved band, and I loved our trips, and I loved performing and all those things. So I couldn't say, oh yeah, and I didn't really do that well in any of the other academic areas.
I hear you.
Yeah, right. So that ability to make that well, look at this, and away we went. And so that was awesome. But Frank calling, that made such a profound impact. That personal, we couldn't have been on the phone more than 2 minutes. Like 2 minutes out of his whole year. And then he phoned again, like 3 weeks later, before the letter arrived, to let me know the letter was on its way, that they were accepting me. And did I have any questions? Call me anytime. Here's my home phone number. And I'm like, got this.
What a huge lesson for all of us.
Yeah, thanks. Like
just taking that, like you said, 2 minutes out of his day, and look what it did for you and your self-confidence and just the human reach out for that little moment, right?
Yeah, that was yeah. The email today, because we didn't have that back then. The texting today, because of course we don't have that when I was doing this. So it was the phone or mail. But I would say that even today, if somebody calls and talks to you for 2 minutes, what a difference. Just the voice, the tone, the care. Yeah, that was a big piece. After university, someone took a chance on me. And I got my first teaching job working with two young, awesome folks, Tony Gomes and Mark Hopkins, hired me to teach at Upper Canada College. And I was 3 years there in their program. I taught low brass instruction and some chamber music stuff, and just helped out around the music department. And that solidified my love of giving back or serving or being part of that whole teaching band and helping kids.
Did you have your ed degree, or that was through, like, what degree did you end up getting at university? How did the teaching part of it come in?
The degree that I believe I have is called a Must Back in Performance, or Performance Must, or something. So performance degree. I did not have an ed degree, but they could hire additional instructors to teach low brass, sectionals, other things like that.
Okay.
And private lessons. I did a lot of private lesson teaching in the early days, and had a big studio because that was just so important piece of my earning, and also of the ability to just, connect with so many schools and things like that. And to supplement my income, I got a job at Boddington Music, sorting music and helping in shipping and receiving, and then moved into sales. And then the St. John's family of stores branched and merged with Boddington Music. And they sent this guy from Winnipeg to come down and work on the transition. And he was there in Toronto for the better part of 6 to 8 months. And he was staying very close to where I lived. So we used to ride the subway to and from work together every day. And we'd have lunch together every day. And I spent hours and hours and hours every day for probably 6 to 8 months with a gentleman by the name of Sam Lutfia.
Sam.
And Sam and I got along really well. And I remember those days very fondly.
Sam has done, or had done, so much for music in Winnipeg, for sure. It's just incredible what he did for the local musicians here. I think all across Canada.
All across Canada. I had friends of mine that went to U of T or went to Western and places like that, who went on to tour Phantom through Asia with Sam, or went on to play, in Chicago or New York with Sam and his great stuff. And that gave me just that connected again to the professional arts, the private teaching, the band community, the teachers, the live musicians, the orchestras. Like, it's all part of the same zone. And then the industry, the manufacturers and the retailers, and we're all in this family of making it work, making it roll. So I spent a lot of time with Sam. And then, of course, I mentioned Rob Houston was a big part of my St. John's days. And, of course, George Douglas. I spent a lot of time with George over a number of years. Probably the most influential St. John's person would have been Greg Way. And I spent a lot of time with Greg because he moved to manage the store in Toronto after Sam finished the transition. And then Greg was part of helping move our family to Manitoba. And we actually have remained lifelong friends. I spoke to Greg about 4 or 5 days ago on the phone. We went back and forth on a few things. So, great guy.
How long did you manage the store at St. John's again?
I worked total time for St. John's 21 years in sales and district management and stuff in Ontario for a number of years first, and since 2000 here. And I was in management of some sort all that time, either band department or a store, and doing some road rep work as well.
So there's a lot of crossover between, again, what you're doing now and what you did then, right? You're dealing with the same people, right? I shouldn't say dealing. You are interacting. You are communicating with the same people, but just on a different level. But do you ever miss being at the store?
I miss some elements of the store, absolutely. A couple of things. I miss, of course, the people are always great. We had all-star teams, great. I had so much fun. And all our friends in the industry, Yamaha and Quest and Long McQuaid and all the stores, everybody's great. And I miss the new products, a new guitar arrives, or a new trumpet comes in from a new manufacturer, or maybe an artist is touring. Loved having the artists tour. I can remember Bobby Shue sitting in the shop tweaking lead pipes for folks. And I'm just standing there watching Bobby Shue work on lead pipes and just going, wow, this is awesome. So yeah, I miss those pieces of it. I also miss this time of year especially. This time of year is so exciting. The kids are deciding to take band. They're signing up for band. And so often, the Joanne Kosheluk signs up for band, and then all of Joanne Kosheluk's friends sign up for band, like in the next 5 minutes, and they want to try out the instruments, and recruiting is taking place, and there's a buzz and an energy, and it's getting warmer outside, so the days are getting longer, and kids are coming to the recruiting night after soccer with their gear on because they've got to try they want to get on trumpet, and I just love this time of year. They're reserving instruments for September. and I miss that recruiting season each season. So yeah, there's lots of things that I miss about the store. But like you say, I have all the same relationships in the band community here, and working with people is so fundamentally. That's all we really do. There's people doing stuff, but we're people doing stuff with people, and I get to be part of all those.
I really do think that we have some of the best people around us as members of the band community, right? Of the music community. We take pretty good care of each other.
Absolutely. It's awesome. Yes.
Now, do you have any little strange or weird moments of, I know we sort of talked about earlier about strange gigs and things like that, but maybe not even a gig, anything that, because again, being in the music industry, we're fun people, but some of us are a little weirder than others. Do you have any sort of weird little story you'd like to share with us?
I suppose I have a whole bunch. Yeah.
And remember, it's a family show.
Yes, yes, right. Yes, yeah. I won't talk about my very early days. Before I went to U of T, I played a couple years in the Toronto Symphony Youth Orchestra, and I went to IMC in McKellar, Ontario, Interprovincial Music Camp. And some of you may know this name. He was my bunk mate. And he always had the upper bunk. I had the lower bunk, and I've known Chris Berry since grade 10, and we've worked together on so many things. And he was in the youth orchestra, and we went to camp together in the summers and stuff like that. So yeah, I've got photos of our camp years from back then, and had loved summer camp. If you can go to summer camp or get your kids to go to summer camp, it is so awesome. They learn so much from that, socially and networking and making friends. Yeah, and then I had some years on the coalition where I traveled with Ken Epp to those meetings and festivals with Ken. Great influence in my zone. I loved sitting and listening to Dennis Tupman and Elfrida Harrison in those older coalition meetings. They were awesome, great influencers in me. And then of course working on the band festival with George and Douglas and Don Green. And today I'm in touch pretty regularly with three mentors that I like to bounce everything off of, which is Eric Marshall, Teresa Lee, and Bill Christensen. So telling any stories about any of those folks would be pretty tricky, because I love them all so much.
It's kind of like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right?
Well, what happens in the band community stays in the band community, and it usually takes about 4 minutes to get through it all. But the number of stories are pretty long and pretty deep. There's been some just outstanding people, and we've just solved problems mainly as they come across our plate. Great story. One night I was working late at the store, and it's like an hour and a half after hours, and it's like, I don't know, the middle of July. I don't even know why I was there. I was doing inventory or something crazy. Who knows? And there's a guy banging on the window, and he can see that I'm sitting at my desk. And he's banging on the window, and I'm like, I know that guy. I know that. Who is that guy? Right? And so I go over to the window and I look through, and he goes, he's waving at me like this, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, right? So I open the door, and I let Larry Perrin in. And Larry Perrin at the time was a band director in Winnipeg. Larry, I think, had just retired. He was a band director in Yorkton, Saskatchewan, and he just got to town. And he had a little screw for a saxophone or clarinet that he needed, and it had broken. And the band the marching band was going to play, and this kid couldn't play anymore. And so I have no idea how the shop is organized. We got no clue. So we go into the shop, and of course the power breakers are off, so we can't see anything. This is before we had cell phones. So we had to find flashlights. So now we've got flashlights, and we're looking through all the bins and drawers. We finally find the screw, and he goes, okay, how much do I owe you? And I'm like, the paperwork is going to be immense. I said, we'll figure it out down the road. See you later. And out he went. I loved doing that kind of stuff.
That's amazing, right? Because they knew there's that trust there, that there's that relationship there, right? It's funny, things have changed a lot over the years, and one of my fondest memories of when I worked at the store is just hanging out with people that were in the community, right? It's like it wasn't even about them coming into the store to buy things. It was like, hey, how are you doing? Just the
Mhm.
connections you're making, just because they're all great people, right? And to be able to help each other out like that in your moment of need, when you've just gotten into town and you've got a gig coming up, and there's stories like that all across. You go to any festival and the same thing. Oh, okay, this person needs a clarinet. Who's got a clarinet, right? Oh, we're out of reeds. Who's got a reed? And you don't even necessarily have to know the other band teacher, except that that you trust each other and you're there for each
Yeah,
other.
yeah, absolutely. It's awesome. Yeah.
So, John, there may be some children that are watching this that are thinking of maybe going into music as a career. Do you have any tips or advice for those people?
I do, and my suggestion is to go for it. The arts and culture industry in Canada is growing. This is an area that continues to expand. Soundtracks, movies. There's orchestras and ensembles being formed all over the world that play soundtracks for video games. Several of them in Canada. One big one in Montreal with Jonathan Desjardins. I mean, this whole area is going to expand and going to grow. Arts and culture are absolutely crucial to our environment and to our learning and to our world. And I would tell them to just go for it. And it may not be in music. It might be in arts administration. It might be in the accounting side, the not-for-profit of running businesses and doing consulting. Had a great conversation yesterday with someone I just think the world of, Janice Finley, who is currently the president of 190 AFM here in Winnipeg, and how we can connect with their members and the MBA members to connect more people to get private lessons, group lessons. Right now, COVID-19, some people are doing, I heard of somebody who was seeing, I think, clarinet lessons on their back deck. And they're a few feet apart, music stand, clarinet, and that's it. 30-minute lesson, get their chops working, gives them something to shoot for, prepare for that lesson, and go that route. So I would tell them to just go for it. Technically, the future is always going to be somewhat unknown, and that's going to continue to change. Change is going to be inevitable. It's going to come at us when we're ready for it some days, and other days not so much. And the skill of adapting is absolutely being able to roll with the punches. I watch that in any junior high teacher has honed that skill like there's nobody's business. And grit, determination. I follow Angela Duckworth and some of her stuff. And I also follow Daniel Pink, and some of his things are just great. So that area of determination, grit, go for itiveness, stick to your guns. You love doing it. You know that. Go for it. That's my advice.
Excellent advice. And any other extra tidbits of wisdom during these weird times that are maybe sort of helping you get through all of this and keeping you focused and going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been trying to remove negative elements out of. I'm pretty hard on myself, and I know a lot of my close friends are very tough on themselves, far tougher than anyone else could be. And I need to lighten up on that guy, and that's a tough thing to do, because we hold ourselves to a standard, and then we somehow imagine that we have to continually maintain that pace. Removing negative elements out of language. We've done a fantastic job of, and I'll get pretty specific here. We've done a fantastic job of replacing or enhancing or improving our language around discussions on gender. We have made huge strides there, and it's so awesome. And we've made the same in terms of discussing the topic of Treaty 1 and how we roll that into our language. Could we do the same with the same energy and attention towards negative elements in our language? What can we do? How are we doing? What can we help with? How can we get involved? What can I do today?
It's that growth mindset, right?
Absolutely. Growth mindset. That's the best way to say it. Bravo. Love that. Good for you. That growth mindset allows us to start saying these 3 things I can do. Here's my 3 actions today I'm going to get done. Boom. That's my theme for the day, right? Not the 5 things I'm not going to do. They're still there. We'll just do them tomorrow. and just keep building. And that's what I'm working on myself. That really rejuvenates me. The other bit of wisdom is I wish I'd taken more PD and courses on human behavior and how to work with people and how to get along with people, how to understand people. We always get to a certain age, Joanne, you and I, and a few others I know, who, wow, if I knew then what I know now, I would not have worried so much about all this stuff. And I would have done this kind of thinking. Having fun at what you do. I have a lot of people that I know that do not enjoy what they do every day, and they look miserable. And I just want to, but that's not my job, that's theirs.
It'll be very interesting to see how people come out when we go back to the new normal, right? How many people will change careers, right? How many people will fully embrace it just slightly differently? I know for me, I've rekindled my love of playing. I haven't practiced so much in years. It is a blast. An hour and a half last night, I had my little, with the acapella app, right? I had my little headphones in, and the time I had no idea. It was like 10:30 by the time I stopped. And Veronica's like, Mom, I need to go to bed. Right? So for me, I know just as you say, nurturing those things that you love, doing more that you love is, I know it's helping so many of us. I can't say thank you enough for taking time today. I know you're a very busy person. You've got so many things on the go right now, not only with the NBA, but everything else, with what's going on in life, and you taking time means the world to me. It's nice to be able to talk to you in a time when we're not running around at festival.
Yeah, those passing in the festival hallways are nice, but short and a little busy. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for having me, Joanne. And I know that you and I both, when we do talk, we stress the support that we get in our homes from our loving and caring families. And I can't thank my parents and Lydia and Naomi. My parents are a huge part of my music upbringing and building those pieces. So was my aunt, very close to her, as I mentioned. But Lydia and Naomi are pretty supportive as our 2 daughters as they finish their university studies and figure out what they're doing in the next few years. And of course, JB1, Janet Brenneman, she's an all-star. She's very supportive and awesome. And I know your family's super helpful, and that makes a world of difference as well. So
it really
thank you
does.
for having me. It's been an absolute blast.
It was so much fun. I hope we get to do this again sometime soon.
Me too.
Have a great rest of your day.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks,
See you
John.
later. Bye.
Bye.